So, hi! First and foremost, I need to thank you guys because we are 2,000 of us now and I almost jumped from excitement when I got the little notification last night. I'm so glad that you want to see more of my weird art stuff. Speaking of, today I'm going to be making an illustrated calendar for my best friend's birthday. The idea was to have it done by January because that's when her birthday is. You can guess by the date of this video that things didn't really go as planned. Who knew thinking, designing, illustrating, printing and building a calendar would be so much work? Not me! So anyhow, here's how I did my 2026 illustrated calendar. My idea at first was simple. I wanted to use risograph printing to make this project. It's basically a glorified printer with two ink drums with really cool vibrant colors, and it works really well for serial projects like magazines, meaning that I would only choose two colors for all of my illustrations. But it's kind of expensive and kind of unpredictable with its little mistakes, so I decided to make a good old digital printing instead. The illustrations are based in the etymology of each month's name, but in the language Euskera. As I've mentioned in the past, there's a little piece of land where I live that conserves one of the oldest speaking languages on the earth, and my friend and I usually speak in Euskera, so I thought it would be nice to explore the meanings of this language's months' names, since it's a present for her. Starting with January, or Urtarria. It means the month of the year, the start. Not that much to work with, so I got inspired by what nature does at the start of the year. My first idea was birds. The lack of birds due to migration in winter gives me even more hope when I see one in the cold streets or soaring the skies. But this excuse of an animal that I was making that looks like a ball didn't really look quite right. You can actively see me pushing it and trying to make it work, but I just didn't like it at all. I changed ideas and played with some tree branches without leaves representing the dead of winter, and then I added a couple birds to represent that hope that I was talking about in the beginning. Still, I wasn't convinced and I ditched the idea for the final one. Several bluebirds soaring the skies bringing the news of a new beginning. I quite like how this one ended being. I set a couple of rules for the rest of the drawings following this one. Each month will have two main colors, and the palette will be warmer or colder depending on the season. I live in the northern hemisphere, so cold in winter and warm in summer. Next, there's February, or Ochaya. It means the month of the wolves. It's very straightforward. It's the month where the wolves are most hurt because they're constantly doing the nasty. Nothing more to add. I wanted the drawing to feel kinda like a medieval tapestry with very 2D wolves. Drawing animals is not my strong, but they look kinda cute in this style. However, having to feel the texture by hand was getting really tedious, so I started to copy and pasting the pencil texture and finishing the edges by hand. Then I had a delirious color changing episode,
shapes and colors,
and finally I ended up doing a negative design where the wolves were white and the background was colored. Pretty cute if I do say so myself. Following with March, or Marchoa, we see the Roman and Latin influences in the name, referring to the ancient Roman god of war, Mars, which is a cheap copy of the Greek god Ares. This was meant to represent the month where armies were commonly formed in the Roman Empire. All that aside though, I didn't really want to represent the god of war in any good light because I'm not about glorifying war, so I drew him in a pose where he's taking cover and losing against the power of nature, raining flowers from above representing the beginning of spring. It was really fun to draw this pose. I quite enjoy drawing anatomy even though it's not really that correct. Next up, it's April, or Aperilla, which also comes from the Latin word aperire. It means open, and it references the time of the year when the flowers open up. I wanted to somewhat work with the concept of open and flowers in a naturalistic way, and since I like the human figure from March a lot, I kept pushing it in that direction. Though as you can see, I didn't like any of my early sketches, and after drawing way too many failed boobs, I resigned and I tried to make more shapeless humanoids dancing in a circle, almost like they're fusing with each other. Anyhow, I also put flowers in their heads in a more graphic way. In hindsight, it looks really similar to this Matisse painting, but I didn't have that in mind at all while making it. Funny coincidences, I guess. Moving on with May, or Mayata, The name comes from the goddess of nature Maya. Yet again, Romans used to make a festival in May to honor one of their deities. At this point in the video you've realized many of the month names in Euskera aren't even in Euskera. That's because, well, the Romans like to colonize the out of the Mediterranean. But somehow our language survived, and in the process it understandably fused with some of the Roman culture and language. In Basque culture we have our own nature and justice deity, and it's called Mari. So that's the one I'm going to reference in this illustration. I drew 5 hens coming out of her hair to represent the number of the month. I'm unsure as to why I gave this month an Art Nouveau kind of vibe, but it tangles well enough with the naturalistic approach of the rest of the calendar. Next we have June or Ekaina, making reference to the sun and its position on the sky. Eguzkia, or in short Eki, means sun, and Gaina means on top, and its etymology shows us that this is the month where the sun spends most time in the visible sky, marking the start of the summer with its solstice. Continuing with the humanized nature in this calendar, I wanted to represent the cycle of the sun through the year and highlight the tallest and biggest figure in the middle, referencing yet again the meaning of Ekaina. I wanted to give this illustration some grit, grain and texture because digital art feels too digital sometimes, and I just love those little imperfections that you get while using traditional, so that's why you'll see me using lots of grain and pencil textures throughout the video. Okay, halfway through we have July or Ustaya. Ustaya is another composite word with Usta and Iya, meaning the month of the harvest. In July we start seeing the fruits of our labor, literally, and it was pretty common to base the months in agriculture cycles or nature as a whole. I wanted to create some sort of harvest party with yet another group of anthropomorphic figures, this time having a sunflower, but not this sunflower but the flower of the sun, as their heads, which is also an iconic image in Basque culture. I tried to give the figures poses reminiscent of classical Greek statues, and also thought of giving them some wheat blend so that they look like harvesters. I really like the different personalities I gave them, only with their body language. Also, funny little detail, I made 7 figures to represent the months of the number, which I think is neat.
I just think they're neat.
And of course, I filled the empty spaces with my signature stars, which I haven't mentioned yet, but I've done that in several other pages too. Then, to make the silhouettes more visible, I decided to shade them and give them some base color to pop up a little bit more from the white background. Fun news for the next one, I forgot to record the process for August, so you get this fun presentation instead. Well, to quickly summarize, Abustua comes from Usta, which still means harvest, and Augustus, the Roman emperor. Augustus meant great, so I wanted to make an illustration that shows a great harvest, and I ended up coming with this little house surrounded by a giant golden wheat field. I find it pretty cottagecore, to be honest, and I like it. Moving on, we have September or Iraya, that references the irache, the fern plant. In this month, people used to harvest fern leaves to make beds for the animals. That way they had a better chance at taking shelter against the cold winter. I didn't really break my head making this one, to be honest. Fern leaves are so cool as it is, so I just tried to make a cool composition with them. It was kind of a pain in the ass to draw those tiny leaves individually, but I like how it ended up looking. I added rainwater to represent the changing temperatures and the weather. And to start making the palette a little bit colder, I used lavender and green to steer away from the warm oranges and yellows of the summer. Continuing with October or Urria, it literally means nut. 'Tis the nut month, everybody! So anyhow, obviously it is the time of the year where walnuts fall from the trees, and again, repeat with me, people harvest them. I wanted to also reference our own version of Halloween night, which was a traditional pagan festivity, not unlike the Irish version, that quite possibly exists here because many Celtic communities settled in the Basque territory. In this day, we celebrate the end of the harvest, the beginning of cold months, and it is believed that we have a closeness with the souls of the departed. I tried to incorporate the nut thing, but it ended up falling out, and I had quite a few sketches before settling on the final one. To reference its complementary month, April, I did another circle of dancing creatures, but this time they are our version of witches, which are typically represented with these handmade pointy hats made with spiraling cloths. Next up we have November, or Azaroa, meaning the month of the seeds. Again, I was actually rushing to finish this because making a calendar is a lot of work, and my deadline, aka my friend coming to visit me, was getting fearfully close. So I just made a cool pattern with typical seeds like sunflower seeds, lentil seeds, corn seeds, and some others that I frankly do not remember anymore. Funnily enough, some of these seeds look like fruits, and the color doesn't really help, but oh well. And finally we have... What? We don't have it? We forgot to record again? Well, what a disappointing ending. Let's make another fun presentation then.
Hey, I am a forgetful dumbass and you are watching my stupid illustration.
Well, this final month, December or Avendua, comes from the word Adventus, which means coming. Really sexual names for the last few months, to be honest. But in this case, I am referring to Jesus Christ and Him coming into our lives on December 25th. Now, I'm not a big fan of Christianity, if you couldn't gather by this whole essay about pagan traditions, customs and languages, so I wanted something that represents true winter. After all, it's the month of the winter solstice. And my birthday, so... After so many sketches and so little time, I found a perfect painting from G.E.H. MacDonald, and I honestly couldn't have found a piece of media that best represents the feeling of being alone on winter on a night, smelling the cold and being at peace with the end of the year. So I went through the graphic design route. I repainted parts of the painting and gave it a grainy color treatment to make it darker and two-tone. Is it a cop-out? Maybe, but I was so running out of time and this was literally perfect. I'm still on the fence of having used a painting that's not mine, even though I really reworked it and, changed it. But I wanted to be transparent with you guys and with my friend, obviously. And to finish this video, I wanted to show the cover of the calendar. This was the first thing I made, trying to find the style that would be the unifying thread of the whole calendar, and the 12-color theme, all of that came from this one drawing. As you can obviously see, my plan was to make a 2025 calendar, but it took way too much time to make it. I finished it last week in April, so it didn't really make much sense to give it as a gift when almost half the year has already passed. Regardless, she really liked it and I'm pretty proud to have made such a complicated project that means a lot to me. After making all of these illustrations, of course I made the bottom part of every month with its dates, lunar cycles, and even marked the changes in the seasons. Then I had to arrange them in a way that I could print them and then sandwich them and be correct, which broke my mind, honestly. And finally I printed it and sewed it so that all the pages were held properly. And this is the final product. It makes me so happy when I can see materialize something that I have made. With digital art you hardly have like your own physical copy of stuff. Sometimes it makes my art feel incomplete. So it feels so nice when I can actually have something I made in my hands. So yeah, this has been such a big project that I've been handling since last year, and I hope you liked it as much as I enjoyed making it. This is it for this video. Thank you so much for staying until the end, and I will see you cuties next time. Bye!